All right, let's dive right into a true classic. We're opening up the very first case of the one and only teen detective Nancy Drew in The Secret of the Old Clock. Let's see how this whole legendary adventure gets started. So first, we meet our hero, 18-year-old Nancy Drew, and she's cruising in her brand new dark blue convertible. Now, you gotta understand, she's not just the daughter of the famous lawyer Carson Drew. She's kind of like his secret weapon, lending her sharp intuition to his trickiest cases. But as she's about to find out, her skills aren't just for the courtroom. They're needed on the road and, like, right now. Imagine this. Nancy's just enjoying a nice, peaceful drive home on a quiet country road. You know, it's one of those totally normal days. But in Nancy Drew's world, normal never really lasts all that long. And just like that, everything changes. She sees a little girl, maybe 5 years old, run straight into the road. A moving van swerves, blasting its horn. The kid gets scared, scrambles onto a low bridge wall, and then she just loses her balance and vanishes over the side. Nancy doesn't even think. She slams on the brakes, jumps out of her car, and sprints to the edge. She finds the little girl, whose name is Judy, just lying there at the water's edge, and thank goodness she's breathing. Nancy gently picks her up, carries her to the nearby house, and is met by these two very worried elderly women, Judy's great aunts, Edna and Mary Turner. While they're taking care of Judy, Nancy finds out that these sisters are really struggling with money, and they're worried sick about what's going to happen to their great-niece. And right here, this heroic moment becomes the first clue in a much bigger mystery. So as things calm down a bit, Mary Turner confides in Nancy, and she tells her about an even deeper problem. She talks about their rich cousin, Josiah Crowley. He was this generous guy who always promised he'd take care of them in his will. But when he died recently, they were shocked. He left them nothing. Absolutely nothing. And with that one broken promise, we pivot from a simple roadside rescue to the real mystery here, Josiah Crowley's will and a huge fortune that seems to have landed in completely the wrong hands. And this is really the heart of the injustice. All of that Crowley money went to one family, the Tophams. They're already rich and, frankly, kind of arrogant. Meanwhile, you've got all these other relatives, like the Turners, good people who really need the help, and they got completely shut out. So the big question is, why would Josiah Crowley do something so cruel? Well, as Nancy starts digging, she finds out maybe he didn't. See, there are whispers. People knew Crowley was miserable living with the Tophams. Someone saw him meeting with a lawyer who specialized in, you guessed it, wills. He'd been secretly visiting his other relatives, telling them a big surprise was on its way. And then there's the final massive clue. Right before he died, he was trying to tell his doctor something, but the only word anyone could make out was will. Okay, so Nancy's got all these pieces, and her sense of right and wrong is just firing on all cylinders. She decides to start her own investigation. First step, find anyone else who knew Josiah Crowley and might have another piece of this puzzle. Her search takes her to the Hoover sisters. They tell Nancy that Uncle Josiah was practically family. He discovered that one of them, Allison, had a fantastic singing voice and promised he'd pay for her career. He told them to look for a big surprise in his will. It's yet another promise that the current will totally ignores. Next, Nancy pays a visit to a frail elderly woman named Abby Rowan. She had helped care for Josiah when he was sick, and of course he made her a similar promise. But then, Abby drops a bombshell. It wasn't just a promise. She tells Nancy that Josiah came to her house, papers in his hand, and told her he had written a brand new will all by himself. She actually saw it. Wow, I mean, this is a massive breakthrough. A new will exists. But there's a problem. Abby's memory is fading. Nancy gently tries to press her for more, for any other detail that could lead her to that document. The room gets quiet as the old woman just struggles to remember. Nancy waits, almost holding her breath. And then, right at that moment, a sound cuts through the silence and it sparks something deep inside Abby's mind. It's the clock on the mantelpiece. It begins to chime, and Abby's eyes flutter open. "The clock," she whispers. "That was it, the clock." That chiming sound was like a key turning a rusty lock. It wasn't that the will was in a clock. No, it was something else Josiah said. He told her that if his final will isn't found, she could learn where it is. In his little notebook. So the puzzle has a totally new shape. Nancy isn't just looking for a will anymore. Now she's also hunting for a small notebook that tells her where the will is. The obvious question is, where on earth could either of them be? And then it all clicks into place. The clock, the notebook, the will, they're all tied together. Abby remembers Josiah had an old family mantel clock. And where's that clock right now? Of course, the Tophams have it. So Nancy finally has a solid lead. She finds out that the Tophams thought the clock was just a piece of junk, so they shipped it off to their summer house at Moon Lake. Nancy manages to get an invitation to a camp nearby, so she heads there immediately. But this quiet little trip to the lake is about to get really, really dangerous. After a whole series of frustrating delays, a flat tire, a boat that breaks down, Nancy finally makes her way down the remote dirt road to the Topham cottage. She is closer than ever to cracking this whole case. But as she gets closer, she just stops in her tracks. Something is very wrong. This isn't some sleepy, closed-up summer house. The doors are wide open. The furniture on the porch is flipped over. The entire place has been completely ransacked. Nancy cautiously steps inside. The cottage is just a total mess, almost empty. And there's no sign of Jeff Tucker, the caretaker who was supposed to be watching the place. The silence is just creepy, unsettling. She's looking everywhere for that old clock, but it's gone. Just as she's about to leave and call the police, she freezes. She hears footsteps. On the porch. Someone else is here, and it is not the caretaker. She ducks into a closet and peeks through a crack in the door. She sees this short, heavy-set man walk in, and he perfectly matches the description of one of the thieves who robbed the Turner sisters. Then two more men show up, and their leader growls a chilling order. Nancy holds her breath, trapped in the dark. The very men she's been hunting are just feet away from her. And with them, just maybe, is the key to this entire mystery. It's a classic cliffhanger, setting the stage for the kind of daring escape and clever detective work that would define Nancy Drew for generations to come.